Some people love loudly. Others love in silence, hoping their feelings will echo back. She never planned to love him. And he never planned to hurt her. But life doesn't wait for the quiet ones to speak. Her name was Claire. His was Ethan. They weren't high school sweethearts or childhood neighbors. They met as adults, two interns in a publishing house in downtown Boston. She had a quiet charm, the kind you don't notice at first, but once you do, you can't forget. He was the opposite, magnetic, spontaneous, the kind of person who walks into a room and becomes the conversation. Claire fell for him on a rainy Thursday afternoon, 2 weeks into their internship. He was talking about a book he loved, using his hands, his eyes sparkling with excitement. She watched him from across the room, her hand still hovering over her keyboard, pretending to type. She didn't even hear the rest of what he said. She just knew. And she knew it wouldn't be mutual. But love doesn't ask permission before entering. Ethan liked Claire. He always said she was easy to talk to. He'd drop by her desk for no reason, just to ask about her lunch or what she was reading. Sometimes he'd sit on the edge of her table, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware of how fast her heart raced every time he got close. They became close. Close enough that everyone in the office assumed they were a thing. But they weren't. Claire knew the difference. He talked about other women, flings, dates, but always with a hint of disappointment. "I just want something that feels real," he once said while they shared fries after work. She almost said, "I'm right here." But instead she smiled. "You'll find her," she said. He looked into her eyes and nodded. "I hope so." That night, she cried quietly into her pillow, whispering his name like a secret she never wanted anyone to hear. 2 years passed. Promotions, late-night calls, birthdays. Her feelings never changed. But she buried them deep, layer by layer under friendship, loyalty, and fear. Fear of losing him. Fear of becoming someone he avoided. Fear of hearing, "I don't feel the same way." So she stayed silent. Until Maya walked in. Claire had known Maya since college. She was bold, funny, fearless. The kind of woman who wore red lipstick to grocery stores and made strangers laugh in elevators. Claire introduced Maya to Ethan during a company holiday event. From the first moment they met, Claire saw it happen. The way Ethan looked at Maya, it wasn't how he looked at her. And Maya? She smiled the way she always did when she liked a challenge. It started with casual drinks, then game nights, then shared brunches. Then one night, Claire was scrolling through Instagram when she saw it. A photo of Ethan and Maya at the harbor, arms around each other, smiling. The caption read, "Right person, right time." Claire's hand trembled as she scrolled past. She could feel her chest tighten, the way it does before a storm. She wanted to scream. Instead, she just turned off her phone and sat in the dark. 3 months later, Ethan called her. "Hey," he said, his voice a little nervous. "I wanted you to be the first to know." She knew before he said it. "I'm going to propose to Maya," he continued. "Next weekend. You think she'll say yes?" She felt her throat close up. 100 words came to her mind, but she only spoke 2. Of course. The night of the engagement party, Claire stood in front of the mirror for a long time, fixing her dress, wiping her tears, forcing a smile she didn't feel. At the party, she laughed at jokes she didn't hear, hugged Maya too tightly, and avoided Ethan's eyes. But later, as everyone left and the music faded, Ethan found her sitting on the back porch alone. "You okay?" he asked, sitting beside her. Claire looked up at the sky, not at him. "Just tired," she lied. "You've been distant lately," he said softly. "I miss you." Her heart cracked. She wanted to tell him everything. Every moment, every ache. But she couldn't. Because Maya had no idea. And Ethan was happy. And Claire had made peace with being the quiet one. Or so she thought. Then came the message. 3 days later, Ethan texted her. "We need to talk. Alone. Please."
No explanaschen.
Just silence after that. Now she stands outside the cafe where they first met 2 years ago. Her phone in hand, her heart pounding. What did he want to say? Why now? And what if, just what if, the story wasn't over yet? Sometimes the people who matter the most are the ones we speak to the least. Because the truth might ruin everything. The rain hadn't stopped since morning. It felt poetic. like the sky understood the weight in her chest. Claire stood at the corner of 6th and Green, just outside the cafe where Ethan had asked her to meet. She'd rehearsed what she might say, but everything felt wrong. Too late. Too heavy. When Ethan walked in, he looked like he hadn't slept. His hair was slightly tousled, his usual easy charm replaced with something quieter. He spotted her at the back table and gave a tired half-smile. She returned it.
No hug.
No small talk. Just a silent acknowledgement of time past and words not spoken. He sat across from her, his hands wrapped around the coffee cup as if he needed something to hold on to. "Thanks for coming," he said. His voice was softer than usual. Claire nodded. "Of course." They sat for a moment in silence, the kind that stretches thin and fragile. "I've been thinking a lot lately," Ethan began. "About everything the last few years. You and me." Her pulse jumped. "What about us?" He looked out the window. Rain slid down the glass like slow tears. "You've always been there, Claire. You've seen parts of me no one else ever has. I guess I took that for granted." She stayed quiet, letting his words hang in the air. He continued. "When I'm with Maya, it's exciting. She lights up every room. But sometimes I feel like I'm performing, like I'm playing the part of someone she wants." Claire studied his face, every line, every flicker of doubt. She'd seen this version of him before. Vulnerable, uncertain. And she loved him even more for it. "I don't think she knows the real me," he added. Claire's throat tightened. "Do you think I do?" He looked at her, then really looked. "Yes," he said simply. A wave of emotion crashed into her. All the years she had swallowed her feelings, choosing silence over honesty. Now here he was, pouring his heart out, not knowing he was breaking hers all over again. But still she said nothing. She thought back to their first real connection, 2 interns caught in a rainstorm, sheltering under a bookstore awning, laughing at the absurdity of their soaked clothes and cancelled meeting. That night they shared a coffee.
No phones. No distractions.
Just 2 people talking for hours like they'd known each other in a past life. She remembered how he looked at her when she made him laugh, like he just discovered something rare. But then time passed. So did moments. And eventually so did possibilities. Back in the cafe, Ethan leaned back in his chair. "You ever wonder what would have happened if things were different?" Claire exhaled slowly. "All the time." There it was, the closest either of them had ever come to admitting the truth. He smiled faintly. "Sometimes I wish I met you first." The words stung more than he could have imagined, because he had met her first. She was just too quiet about what she felt. And now she was watching another woman live the life she once imagined with him. Before she could answer, his phone buzzed. "Maya." He stared at the screen for a second, then silenced the call. Claire saw the hesitation, the weight of choices not yet made. "I should go," she said, grabbing her coat. "Claire, wait." Ethan stood up, but she was already halfway to the door. She paused, her hand on the handle, back to him. "What are you really trying to say?" "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe that I miss you. Maybe that I'm confused. Or maybe I just needed to see you one more time before everything changes." Her eyes burned, but she didn't turn around. "Then I'm glad you did." And with that, she stepped into the rain. The heart knows what it wants, even when the mind says no. But love kept in silence too long becomes a storm. It had been 4 days since Claire walked away from Ethan in the cafe. 4 days since he told her he missed her. 4 days since he didn't stop her from leaving. She hadn't heard from him, but she'd read that message he never sent, over and over again in her mind. "I miss you. I'm confused." Words that opened old wounds and left them bleeding. Claire tried to move forward, keeping herself busy with work, smiling through team meetings, forcing laughter where it didn't belong. But at night, she stared at the ceiling, haunted by everything unsaid. Across town, Ethan wasn't sleeping either. Maya had noticed. He was quieter, distracted. His phone barely left his hand. She'd catch him staring at the screen, lost in thought. And every time she asked what was wrong, he'd say, "Just tired." But Maya wasn't naive. She'd seen the way Claire looked at him. She just hadn't wanted to believe it. Until now. Subplot. Maya's point of view begins that evening. Maya found herself going through Ethan's laptop while he showered. Not something she was proud of, but something she needed to do. No messages. No photos. Nothing concrete. Until she opened a drafts folder. There, unsent and timestamped 2 days ago, was an email. To Claire Thomas, subject. I can't pretend anymore she didn't open it. She didn't have to. The title was enough. Her throat tightened. Her fingers shook. She had fought so hard for this relationship. She loved Ethan. But now for the first time she wondered. Did he ever really love her back? Back to Claire. The call that changes everything. Friday night. Claire's phone rang. It was Maya. Confused, she answered. Can we meet? Maya asked. Her voice was calm, too calm. An hour later, they sat across from each other at a dimly lit bar near the river. Maya didn't waste time. Did something happen between you and Ethan? Claire froze. Her hands curled around her glass. I don't know what you mean. You do, Maya replied. Her voice didn't rise. She wasn't angry, just tired. Claire looked at her. Nothing happened. But something almost did. That was the first time Claire had admitted it, to herself and someone else. Maya nodded slowly. Do you love him? There it was. Claire could have lied. But she didn't. Yes. Maya blinked, then looked away. I knew it. Silence passed between them like a storm cloud. Then Maya said something Claire didn't expect. He was mine. But maybe he was never really mine. Claire felt her heart crack at the pain in Maya's voice. She hadn't asked for this. None of them had. Meanwhile, Ethan's dilemma builds. Ethan stood in his apartment, looking out the window at the city lights. He should have felt lucky, engaged to a beautiful, smart woman. But all he could think about was Claire walking away in the rain. He opened his email drafts again, rereading what he never sent. I wish I met you when I was brave enough to love you. He didn't know how to fix this. But he knew one thing. He couldn't marry one woman while thinking about another. Cliffhanger scene. The crossroads. The next morning, Claire woke to a message from Ethan. I need to see you. Please. Today. She sat up in bed, staring at the screen. Her heart pounded. She didn't know what he would say. But part of her already knew what he felt. What none of them knew was that Maya had already packed her bags. And by evening, someone would be walking away. There's a moment when silence becomes unbearable. When the truth, no matter how painful, has to come out. And when it does, everything changes. Claire sat at the edge of her bed, Ethan's message still open on her phone. I need to see you. Please. Today. Her thumb hovered over the screen, not yet typing, not yet breathing. What did he want now? Closure? A confession? An apology? She wasn't sure what scared her more. Hearing the truth or saying hers. Meanwhile, across the city, Ethan paced the rooftop of his building. The sun was setting, bleeding amber across the sky like fire at the end of something precious. He hadn't told Maya where he was going. In fact, he hadn't spoken to her since last night. She had been packing. Quietly. Deliberately. And he had done nothing to stop her. Not because he didn't care. But because he cared too much about someone else. Flashback. The night Ethan almost told Claire everything 3 months before the engagement. Ethan had called Claire late, past midnight. He was drunk. Or maybe just honest. I keep thinking, he'd slurred softly into the phone, that I should have chosen you. A long time ago. Claire had paused, her heart climbing into her throat. Then why didn't you? I don't know, he whispered. Maybe I was scared of what it would mean. That night she cried herself to sleep. And the next morning, neither of them mentioned it again. Back to present. Maya's silent goodbye. Maya zipped her final suitcase and stood in the living room, scanning the apartment that still smelled like him. She wasn't angry anymore. She was just done. Done pretending his smile hadn't changed. Done ignoring the way he lit up at Claire's name. Done feeling like a placeholder in someone else's story. She left the engagement ring on the kitchen counter with a note. I deserve to be someone's choice. Not their habit. Claire and Ethan. The meeting, they met at the waterfront. The same place Ethan had taken Maya to propose just weeks ago. Now he stood there alone, hands stuffed in his coat pockets, waiting like someone who had run out of time. Claire approached slowly, her heart pounding harder with each step. He turned as she neared, his eyes tired but open. "Thanks for coming," he said. She didn't answer, just looked at him waiting. "I'm not marrying her," he said quietly. Claire blinked. "Why?" "Because I can't stop thinking about you." Silence. Heavy. "Impossible." "You're just scared," she said. "No," he replied. "I've always loved you. I just didn't know it until it was too late." Tears welled in her eyes. "Then why did you choose her?" "Because you never asked me to choose you." That broke her. Claire stepped back, the dam inside her finally cracking. "You want to blame me for your silence? For your fear?" Ethan looked devastated. "No. I'm blaming myself for not seeing it sooner." She wiped her face roughly, turning away from him. "It's not that simple anymore." "But it could be," he said. She turned back. "How?" "I left her. I told her the truth. I don't know what comes next, but I know I want you in it." Claire stared at him, every emotion she had buried rising like a wave. "I waited for you," she whispered. "I waited for years, Ethan." "I know," he said. "I'm sorry. But what if I don't want to wait anymore?" Cliffhanger ending, unspoken decision. He took a step closer. "I'm not asking for a promise. I'm just asking for a chance." The wind picked up. The water crashed louder. Claire's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. All she could see was him, standing there, finally saying everything she had dreamed of hearing. And yet she didn't move. Because love isn't just timing. It's trust. And she wasn't sure if she had any left. She looked into his eyes, lips trembling. Then she said, "Sometimes the truth isn't what we see. It's what's been hidden from us all along. And when it finally comes out, everything changes." The letter she was never meant to read. Claire hadn't replied to Ethan's confession. Not yet. She walked away from the waterfront with a storm inside her, unsure if what she felt was love, fear, or just exhaustion. She hadn't told anyone about their meeting. Not Maya. Not even herself, not out loud. But that silence didn't last long. Because the next morning Maya showed up at her door. She looked different. Calm. Almost resolved. "I left him," Maya said, standing in the hallway like she didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Claire stared, unsure what to say. "I think you and I should talk," Maya added. "There's something you need to see." They sat in Claire's living room, surrounded by the hum of quiet appliances and the buzz of nerves. Maya pulled out a folded letter from her purse, yellowed slightly at the corners, like it had been read more than once. "I found this in Ethan's old box. It's not recent. It's dated 2 years ago." She handed it over. Claire hesitated. "What is it?" Maya looked away. "Just read it." Claire unfolded the paper. "Dear Claire, this is probably something I'll never have the courage to say out loud. Maybe that's why I'm writing it. You are the one I think about when I'm quiet. The one I look for in a room even when you're not there. You've always been my calm in the storm. I think I love you, but I don't know how to tell you. And if I do, I'm afraid I'll ruin what we have. So I'll stay silent. Like you always do." Ethan. Claire froze. Her hands shook. Her chest tightened. This letter, it was before Maya. Before the proposal. Before the distance. He had felt it. All along. He just never said it. Just like her. And in that silence they both lost everything. Claire looked up at Maya, tears brimming. "You didn't have to show me this." "Yes," Maya said, holding back her own tears. "I did." "Why?" Maya's voice cracked. "Because if two people love each other this much and still miss their chance, that's not just sad, it's tragic. And I don't want to be the reason it ends that way." Claire wiped her face. "But you were engaged. He chose you." Maya shook her head slowly. "He didn't. He settled. And I loved him enough to ignore it, until I couldn't anymore." A long silence fell between them, heavy but healing. And then Claire asked, barely a whisper, "Where is he?" Maya gave a soft smile. "Probably writing another letter he'll never send." Cut to Ethan. The twist deepens. Ethan was in his apartment tearing through drawers. The box was gone. The letter, the one he wrote years ago and never sent, was gone. And so was Maya. She'd found it. He sat down, heart pounding. He didn't know if he should be afraid or relieved. A knock came at the door. He opened it slowly. Claire stood there, the letter still in her hand. They didn't speak right away. She stepped inside. The air between them buzzed with old energy. I read it, she said finally. He swallowed hard. I didn't know she had it. Claire nodded. She left it with me. His eyes flicked down. She read it. She did. He sat down, rubbing his face. I never meant for her to see it. It was just a moment. One I was too afraid to say out loud. Claire walked over, standing just inches away. Why didn't you send it? She asked, voice trembling. Because I didn't think you felt the same. I was waiting for you to. Then we both waited too long, he whispered. She hesitated, one breath, one heartbeat. Then reached into her bag and pulled out her own folded note. What's this? He asked. She looked away. A letter I wrote. The night before your engagement party. He opened it. Ethan, if you're reading this, I've already failed to say it in person. But I loved you. Quietly. Completely. For longer than I care to admit. I never said it because I didn't think you'd choose me. Maybe you wouldn't have. But now I'll never know. Claire. Ethan stared at the words, his hands shaking. Both of them had loved. Both of them had hidden it. And both had broken their own hearts in the process. Now standing face to face, everything felt possible but fragile. Do we still have time? Claire asked, barely above a whisper. Ethan stepped forward, closer than ever. I don't know, he said. But I'm not letting you walk away again. There's a moment where everything comes together. Or completely falls apart. Love doesn't wait forever. But sometimes it returns at the very last second. Claire stood in Ethan's apartment, the air around them thick with everything unsaid now finally spoken. 2 letters, one from him, one from her, lay on the table like ghosts of a love that could have been and maybe still could. Ethan looked at her, eyes raw, like he had nothing left to hide. She wasn't sure if she was angry, relieved, or just exhausted. I can't take back the time we lost, he said. But I can promise I'll never waste another second. Claire looked down at the letters. We both waited for each other, she said. And in the silence, we both lost. Ethan took a step closer. Then don't let this moment be another one we regret. Claire met his eyes, soft, broken, but finally open. She wanted to fall into him. To forgive the years. To rewrite the ending. But love, real love, didn't erase pain. It held it. And still chose to stay. They sat in silence, side by side, the way they always used to. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It was full. Full of old memories and new beginnings. I used to imagine this moment, Claire admitted. But in all those versions, Maya wasn't in the picture. Ethan nodded. She was never the villain. Just someone caught in a story that wasn't meant for her. Claire took a breath. Does she know you're here? She's the one who left the letter for you. Claire blinked. She wanted me to know? She said love deserves to be brave and honest. For a moment, Claire felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Flashback intercut. The day before the wedding announcement, Claire had been walking past a florist when she saw Ethan and Maya picking out flowers. Ethan had looked happy, comfortable, safe, and Claire had walked by, hiding behind sunglasses, wondering how it was so easy for him to move on. But now she realized maybe it never was. Back to present, the turning point. I want to start over, Ethan said, his voice steady now. No lies. No fear. Just us. Claire bit her lip. And if I say yes, what then? We figure it out, he said. Together. No more letters. No more silence. She smiled just a little. That sounds terrifying. He reached for her hand. Then we'll be terrified together. Time skip. 2 months later, Claire stood at the edge of the rooftop garden, the sun dipping low behind the city skyline. It was the same building where Ethan had once paced in fear of losing her. Now he stood beside her, hand in hers, watching the world turn golden. They weren't rushing. They weren't running. They were healing slowly, honestly, completely. Claire leaned into him. Do you think we'll ever stop being afraid? Ethan kissed the side of her head. Probably not. But at least we won't be afraid alone. The final twist, one message left behind later that night. Claire unpacked a small box she had been too afraid to open. Inside was a final note from Maya, written before she left. If you're reading this, it means you chose each other. I hope you make it. I hope you fight for it. But most of all, I hope you don't make the same mistake twice. Silence steals everything. Speak. Love loudly. Maya Claire folded the letter slowly. She didn't cry. She smiled. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't losing love. It's letting yourself believe it can return. The letter wasn't the end. It was the beginning. 6 months had passed since Claire read Maya's final note. The letter hadn't broken her. It had freed her. It reminded her that silence, while safe, was never what love deserved. Love wasn't meant to be folded between pages and locked away in drawers. It was meant to be loud, honest, alive. And so was she finally. Claire and Ethan hadn't rushed into anything. They didn't jump into labels or promises. They walked one moment at a time toward something real. The wounds they carried from the years of silence and missed chances didn't disappear overnight. But they tended to each other gently, as if both were learning to breathe again. Some nights, Claire still found herself thinking back to that rainy evening at the waterfront, the moment everything changed. And every time she did, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Ethan too had changed. He was more thoughtful now, slower with his words. He no longer lived in the blur of assumptions. He listened more, held her hand longer, looked her in the eyes like every second mattered because now it did. He no longer flinched at vulnerability, because vulnerability was the reason he almost lost her. And love, he realized, doesn't wait for the brave. It makes you brave. One quiet Sunday morning, Claire sat in her sunlit kitchen, pouring coffee while reading a manuscript Ethan had written. He'd titled it, The Ones Who Loved Quietly. It wasn't just a story. It was their story, fiction disguised as truth. She smiled, running her fingers over the page, her heart warm with the quiet validation of being seen. Ethan walked in, barefoot, sleepy-eyed, and grinned at the sight of her reading. You published it? She asked. He nodded. Last night. She closed the book softly. It's beautiful. So are you, he said. Especially when you're finally smiling for yourself. Flashback close. Maya's final impact. Maya never returned. But her decision to step away, to choose truth over comfort, became the reason two people got a second chance. They still thought of her sometimes. Not with regret, but with gratitude. Claire even kept her last note in a frame by her desk. A reminder, speak. Love loudly. Climactic full circle moment. 1 year later, on the anniversary of their first cafe conversation, Ethan took Claire back to the place it all began. He didn't bring flowers. He didn't drop to one knee. He just brought the same quiet certainty he'd once lacked. They sat at the same table, shared the same coffee, and this time when he looked at her, he didn't hesitate. I don't want to spend another year wondering what if, he said. So if you still want this, all of it, I'm here. Claire smiled. No fear.
No delay.
I've been here the whole time. They reached across the table, fingers locking like pages finally turning together. White heavy check mark. Did you enjoy the story? Speech balloon. What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Envelope with arrow. Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more real, emotional love stories.